Everyone's blessed with one special thing. Eddie's blessing was hidden under his jeans, taking him to a world of disco parties, a glamorous house, and an unconventional family of misfits that gave him the love he never had. But nothing in life stays groovy forever. People change, culture shifts, and sometimes drugs and guns get involved. But we have to find a way to get through change together and keep on rocking and rolling, even if the good times are over. This is Boogie Nights.
I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to be someone. Hell yeah, man. So I'm just going to give some behind the scenes. I asked Chris to do this synopsis because this is one of his favorite movies, but that was like, I asked him to do it like about a week and a half ago, completely forgetting about it. And then last night I wrote one, and until like about 2 minutes ago, I was like, oh yeah, you wrote one too.
What'd you write for yours, roughly? Is it any similar to mine?
Sort of. Do you want me to read it just for fun?
Sure.
Wow, you seem so thrilled. Yeah, I won't read the whole thing. It's not necessary. But I kind of said the same thing. It was like, I mentioned the whole, like, everyone has one special thing, but I made it more about just like the reason we leave our homes and our families and our old friends is because we have this talent that we feel like can push us above and beyond. But in reality, it's only because we want to be found. And then I ended the synopsis by saying, get ready to sit in that joy juice because this is Boogie Nights.
That's fun. I like that. That's cool.
Thanks,
well,
man.
We're going to put a poll up for everyone. So if you guys like mine more, vote for it. If you like Altaf's more, vote for it. So that way we can kind of create some weird resentment between each other. You know, I think that'd be fun.
Whoever wins gets the podcast and the other has to leave.
Yep. Yeah, but it just becomes a solo podcast after that. So, you know. Yeah. So really, that's what you're voting for.
All right. Well, welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about how Boogie Nights changed us.
And if you guys like the show and want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/moviesthatchangedus, where you can get ad-free podcast early access and also access to our exclusive bonus show called Movies That Played Us, where Altaf and I make custom-made games for each other that are usually movie quizzes in some capacity. We recently did Guess the Movie by the Letterboxd Review. We've done Guess the Movie Drink, Guess the Movie Beard. And today, Altaf made me a game, and he's going to reveal what he made me and what we're going to play after this.
Before I reveal it, I just want to say, I feel like you mentioned the beard one every promo. Mm-hmm. And every time
it just inherently becomes part of the script, you know?
Sure. Well, the game I made for you is Guess the Movie by the Bad Description.
Okay, I've played those games before. I'm down. That sounds fun. Did you scare yourself a little with that mic? I saw that.
I did. I frightened myself pretty heavily.
Oh, okay. Ah!
Go check out our Patreon at Movies That Changed Us. Okay, moving on rapidly because my brain is getting scrambled. Chris, we ask each other before talking about the movie on each podcast what art moved us that week. What art moved you this week?
So we got a lot of ground to cover for this week because it's been, you know, so just to contextualize what I've been up to this week, I recently had a birthday and I went out of town. I visited LA, and so we got into some shenanigans in the process. So I'll kind of do like quick bullet points. I'm assuming I know which one you're broadly going to cover. But I'll give the quick ones that are kind of more to mine. Mm-hmm. So one thing, I guess the main thing is I got a new tattoo. I'll show it right here for anyone on the YouTube channel. This is it right here. I'll also pop up pictures. It's in the healing process right now, so it's looking a little scabby and kind of crappy and faded. That's just because it's just what happens when tattoos start healing up. So we'll pop up pictures when it was more fresh. It's a tattoo of a broken katana. It's very personal to me. It was very therapeutic to get. So that's one thing. It was fun to get because I haven't been tattooed in probably over 5 years at this point.
Yeah, I've been there for a few of your tattoos, right? So I've been there for your space one, the space mm-hmm. triangle. And I didn't realize it had been that long since you'd gotten a tattoo.
Yeah, it's been a while. My last was the Breaking Bad teddy bear. And so it was kind of fun to get back out there, get to it again. Altaf and I also went to a screening of 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think Altaf's probably going to cover that a little more in depth, I assume.
I have a couple that I was going to mention, so you can talk about 40-Year-Old Virgin if you want.
Okay. I mean, honestly, that was more of like a for fun kind of day, just because like I do really enjoy 40-Year-Old Virgin, but I don't have like a deep connection or really profound takes of it. It's just a funny movie. Yeah, so it was a good time. Last thing I wanted to cover as well, my cousin bought me the video game Helldivers 2, which is cool. I know I'm a little late to the Helldivers party. I know that game got big like a year ago, but I started playing it and I understand the fun, It's pretty much Starship Troopers the game. It's like it's very satirical. You play uber patriotic soldiers gunning down bugs, spreading the good word of democracy. That's the whole thing. While your character automatically speaks while you're machine gunning bugs, and they literally are like, "Get some, let's go!" Again, it's very Starship Troopers, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, we used to get comments on our Starship Troopers reaction video and also on the podcast episode we did a while back, and they would mention that game. And so that's how I heard of it first. But yeah, It's exciting that you finally got to play it. I put this in my notes because I had a feeling you'd forget because a lot went on. You should mention that you saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre in theaters.
Oh yeah, I know. That was over a week ago now, I think. Dang, that's crazy. Fucking love that movie. I think we did a whole episode. That movie is very special to me. And I will say that movie, you notice a lot more of the subtleties in the music seeing it in theaters, as it goes when we hear things in theaters for the first time. And yeah, I mean, it's a fucking stunning movie. It was awesome seeing it. I think the last 20 minutes, I was like in a trance, in that final sequence. If you know, if you've seen Texas Chainsaw. And just as well,
it's funny to talk about such an iconic movie as like, if you know the last 20 minutes, I'm like, I think even people, it's so funny. That ending is so iconic. I feel like even people who never have seen that movie know what that ending is.
100%. But even if on the off chance someone listening doesn't, I would feel like shit if I ruined it for them. I want to preserve that experience for the first time for anyone. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
The last one I wanted to get through really quickly, as well as on the day of my birthday, there was a screening of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, the extended edition, which is funny because we just did podcasts on Lord of the Rings, but I was like, fuck yeah, I'll go and see it. And I fell asleep for 30 minutes in the middle of it, but otherwise it was awesome. It was in one of the fancy theaters with the luxury, like where the little reclining seats. And I went by myself, got myself a little hot dog and like a cherry icy. It was so nice. I was too comfortable, It was like that much of a comfort food movie to where I felt safe taking a nap with it.
I predicted you'd go to sleep. And it was just like, you're a very nappy type person. But
I have sleep problems during the night too.
Totally.
so I tend to fall asleep during the day.
But it's just very funny, like what movies you fall asleep in. Because our other story, if you don't mind me sharing, is you and I, like there was a re-release of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And you and I were like, let's go see that. That'd be so much fun. And you were dozing off in that movie as well. But
yeah,
to be fair, it was like the same thing. You hadn't gotten enough sleep, and you decided to have 5 White Castle sliders.
Yeah, that's true too. But I will say, I didn't actually fall asleep in that one. I was dozing off, but I fought it. This is the first time I've actually properly fallen asleep and like dreamt in a theater before. It's like a perfect mark for my 30th birthday. It's when I start falling asleep in theaters.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I'll go quick, but yeah, we saw 40-Year-Old Virgin. I'm surprised that you have such a muted reaction to it. I know you like the movie, so I'm not trying to say that, but I was just like, that movie is like, for me, it's like one of the top 5 comedies for me, like of the Judd Apatow era. So I was, and I think like few things that I noticed. This might be obvious, but I hadn't seen it in a while, how fucking graphic that movie is. Like it goes for the rated R. It's not just rated R because it curses, it's not just rated R because it shows some boob. It goes all the way there.
Yeah.
2 is like how all those guys just want to like, it's kind of endearing that the moment they hear that he's a virgin, none of them make fun of him. They all immediately are like, we need to help you out. Like they take like responsibility for it, which is just like, and they all have bad advice. They all are like in the wrong path. They look at women in a very, in they don't look at women as people, but despite all of that, they're always just be like, oh, we got to help our guy out. You know?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think what's fun is that he still learns things in the process of taking their bad advice, because at least he's like actually trying now and does something new. Because the whole, like you said, like that, none of them were judging him or making fun of him. But as soon as the cat's out of the bag that he's a virgin, he's the one that becomes his own worst enemy. He's the one that runs away and makes a whole thing of it. You know, he's the one who's like so cripplingly insecure that it basically is what becomes his biggest obstacle.
And then the last thing is, so while Chris was over in LA, we decided, I was already like, as listeners of this podcast, regular listeners might know, I have been going through my BoJack watch for the first time, and I had the finale left, and I was kind of putting off the finale because it was one of those things where I'm like, once I watch the finale, I'm done with the show, and that's going to be sad. And then Chris was over, and he was like, hey, you want to watch the finale? And I'm like, let's fucking do it. And Chris has already seen the show. He's a huge fan. Watched the BoJack Horseman finale. I describe it in the same way that I would describe the Breaking Bad finale or the Barry finale. Which is, it doesn't end with this insane, like, you know, oh, it was all leading up to this moment. It ends with a kind of epilogue-y type feel of these characters are not all fixed. They still have a ways to go, but this is the only ending a show like this could have. And there's a moment, and Chris was there with me next to me on the couch, where I straight up started crying because of how nice someone was to someone else. Not because of like this deeply emotional moment, but just like, oh, this person was so kind, you know?
Well, especially after, again, without spoiling anything, but after how much turmoil those two characters have been through together too. It's like their relationship, like, you know, what it amounts to still ends in like in an act of kindness and kind of a bittersweet exchange.
And just in a very simple gesture too. That's all. I'll just leave it at that. Chris, because you know, I always want to show off how good of a friend I am to you. Do you want to tell people what gift I got you for your birthday?
Let me go get it, actually.
Yay! I promise it relates, and then we'll finally get to the movie.
Altaf got me this gift right here. If you've seen BoJack Horseman, you'll know exactly what this is.
3 little orphans, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Not a home or a family tree. It is BoJack's sweater from when he was on the show Horsing Around. It's his Horsing Around sweater. So I was pretty fucking stoked when I got this.
You know, we've always kind of talked about maybe doing TV one day as like a special episode of this podcast, and BoJack is one of the shows that I'd love to cover.
100%. If there's anything that fits the mold of like the identity of this show in terms of art that changed us or ways it kind of affects our worldview, I mean, like, it's fucking BoJack Horseman. If you've seen that show, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you haven't, stop this podcast right now and go watch it. Like, you know, you can fit in 2 episodes of BoJack in the duration of 1 episode of our podcast. Spend your time better. You know what I mean? Be smarter.
100%. Stop this podcast. Go watch the.
I don't want to see you until you're done with BoJack.
Retention just fucking drops. It tanks here.
I would be psyched. If this video bombs because everyone stopped and went and watched BoJack, I'd be like, that's rad. You know? It's
like Goodwill Hunting. You're just happy to see them go.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
I just want to say, Chris, we have to get to the movie, and this shirt, I'm wearing, kind of for listeners, I'm wearing a very loud shirt today. A shirt that I normally wouldn't wear on the podcast. It's what I wear usually when I kind of go out, but I just thought it'd be fitting for this kind of movie, which is very disco, obviously. So transitioning, Chris, how did Boogie Nights change you?
I just want to say real quick, Altaf sure is, you're right, it is very porno. I look at that and I'm like, wow, I would go to the theater and watch you, you know, do stuff to people.
You'd watch it for the story. You'd sit in that joy juice.
Exactly. Yeah. I fucking love Boogie Nights. I can't remember when I saw it for the first time. I must have been 18 or 19, somewhere in that territory. My dad loves this movie too, and we're able to kind of weirdly bond talking about it. And it's interesting because there's so much to unpack going on. And I feel like you and I can kind of break down like the different elements of this movie that we're going to talk about. And I think the two biggest things for me that really connect with me are obviously the elements of coming of age and found family. That at the core of it, the main character, Eddie or Dirk Diggler, is still kind of just a little boy underneath. He's just a kid who wants love from, unconventional means. But at the same time, it's also very much an examination of a very specific time in history, in the 70s, and how that era kind of went and faded, and how every era in its own way has those highs and lows. And we kind of, at least for me watching it, it makes me look at time right now of like, even ironically, us doing a movie podcast on classic movies, and we always on the show talk about like, man, we used to make stuff. They used to do this. Back in the day, they did this. And I think like, it's kind of, I mentioned it in the synopsis, but it is very much about the inevitability of culture changing and what we do through that to get through it, and whether or not to fight it or, go with it, or what is it that kind of gets you through that change. At least that's what I picked up on this most recent watch through. At least I've been feeling more of that as time gets older, or time goes on and I get older. As I just turned 30, I'm feeling like a little more out of touch with the youth, but at the same time, I still feel young in a lot of ways. So I don't know. There's a lot going on. So enough about me, Altaf. How did Boogie Nights change you?
You told me about it. I hadn't seen it before I met you.
That's hilarious. Wait, have you not heard of it before I told you? I don't remember this at all.
So I'm a huge cinephile now. Now I'm the guy that has seen mostly all Paul Thomas Anderson. The only Paul Thomas Anderson movie I haven't seen is Inherent Vice, but I'm the Criterion Collection guy now. But when I first moved to LA, I wasn't
bragging, dude.
No, but I'm just trying to give context to people. You know what I mean? Is that like when I first moved to LA, I was a movie fan. That's the reason I moved. But my like breadth of like movie consumption wasn't as large as it is now. And so I hadn't even heard of Boogie Nights, even though it's such a huge movie. I mean, I hadn't even heard of the Before trilogy until Chris told me about it. And I remember when Chris, you told me about the Before trilogy. I'm like, that sounds like my shit. What the fuck?
You're like mad that you missed it.
You're like, yeah, it's directed by Richard Linklater and they filmed it every 9 years and it's just them walking through Europe. I'm like, that's all I want in a movie. What are you talking about? No, you told me about Boogie Nights and the thing you were like, yeah, and it starts with this like crazy oneer and it's about the porn industry back in the 70s and it has young Mark Wahlberg in it. And I was like, what the hell? Watched it. And I kind of had the reaction that everyone has when they first watch this movie, which is, oh my God, like it's such a like shot of adrenaline in the arm. There's so many like visual ideas and such raw emotion. And I think that's a big thing I want to talk about too, is like a lot of, if you look at all Paul Thomas Anderson movies, they all have this vulnerability and raw emotion to them. It's like, he's not afraid to show people at their most like naked emotionally. And sometimes it can come at it with an angle of kind of soap opera melancholy where it feels a little overly done, but still it's getting at like, this is this person at their most naked. And so all of that was just hitting me. And since then, that kind of influenced me to watch other Paul Thomas Anderson movies. Up until then, I had only seen Punch Drunk Love. So I was like, let me watch There Will Be Blood and all that stuff. And now he's just like one of my favorite filmmakers. I can't wait for One Battle After Another that's coming out this month.
Yeah.
It's funny though, Boogie Nights now, like this rewatch that I did of it, I was thinking a lot about my own
sex life.
Yeah, no, no. The one thing that I don't do while watching this movie is think about how I'm fucking. I just want to say that. But no, I was thinking a lot about like my own anxieties over art, Like I actually, in a weird way, I related a lot to Jack Horner. And that whole conversation that he has with Philip Baker Hall. Philip Baker Hall's character is like, you got to stop holding on too tight, Jack. It doesn't have to look good. And my God, if that's like the case for what art is right now, like it doesn't matter about the quality. If the title and thumbnail is good, if the algorithm is correct, people will watch Dahmer, the monster Dahmer story on Netflix. Like it doesn't matter if it's like well done. If it's 8 episodes and it fits that fucking row on Netflix and it hits that algorithm, people will watch it. It doesn't matter. And Chris, it's the thing that I yell at you about on the phone. I talk at you. You know what I mean? Like, and you politely listen like a good friend. but that's kind of what I'm thinking about now when I watch this movie, you know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I would be genuinely confused if you didn't have any relation to that sort of thing. I think that's why I mentioned it off the top of this podcast, that I think that is like an evergreen thing to deal with. I feel like there's always going to be that kind of like, feeling of being like a product of a bygone era, like the good times are over.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting. And I'm sure many people watching now will kind of connect with it. And whatever, but 20, 30 years from now, people might connect with it in a different way later. But that's what's kind of cool about a movie like this, is that the emotions in it are very evergreen, even if it's about a specific place and time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, how do you feel about that? Because you have a more even-keeled look at things sometimes, where you talk a lot about how the pendulum swings back and forth whenever I like relate to my anxieties. But that Floyd Gondoli scene, which is Philip Baker Hall's character's name, Floyd Gondoli, I fucking love it. His whole thing about like, I like butter up my ass and a lollipop in my mouth.
Call me a pervert, whatever.
Yeah, like how do you feel about that? Like how do you feel about just the simple idea of people's demand and kind of bar for movies specifically, because that's kind of what we talk about, has gotten kind of lower, and movies and TV has gotten lower. People aren't really demanding, oh, I want something better. Like I don't want to watch just like characters in a void. That doesn't do it for me,
Yeah. I've always been a proponent, and this, Altaf, but I'm just relaying it for the audience, is I've always been a proponent of people will always desire good art in some capacity. When people say the bar lowers, I don't even necessarily fully agree with that. I think sometimes the bar just changes. There are certain generations that won't connect to certain things that connect with us, but they'll connect to something else that won't connect with us, in my opinion, and if that genuinely moves them or makes them rethink something, then that's effective art. And I'm not saying that we can't miss certain things that we used to have, but in my opinion, I feel like we're equally ignorant of things that were once special to another generation before us. You know what I mean? That we don't give a fuck about, but they might have held on to tightly the same way. The way people record music has changed over time, or what people do with music has changed over time. Even YouTube videos, the fact that you said, people only care about the thumbnail and title. I'm sure the existence of YouTube was a threat to television people at the time. Mm-hmm. When YouTube started rising, I'm sure there were people who were like, oh, people are turning off their TVs and getting on their fucking computers. Whatever happened to class, when it comes to the way people consume shit. You know what I'm saying?
You don't think there's any merit to that? Because I know, like, you are looking at it from a more healthy perspective. I will say that. I'm not rejecting you, but just as a healthy debate, you don't think there's any merit to the aspect of, like, we are sometimes provided with so many movies look so bad nowadays, man. Like big budget movies, like huge movies. And sometimes when I do look back at the 90s or the 80s, trash movies look better. Like actual trash movies look significantly better than what we get today. And I think I'm not saying it's completely the audience's fault, but also there is this kind of like general, like, I guess that's just how it is. CGI just looks bad. And I'm like, we have so many tools, and movies cost so much more because of the way they're made. And we're given this slop. And sometimes I do personally feel like, oh, it doesn't really have to be good as long as it fits the canon of this story, as long as it fits this lore, as long as Chris Evans makes a cameo, do you think there's like even like a small ounce of merit to that idea?
No, I think there is. I'm not saying that they're like, like you said, slop is like perfectly acceptable because the young people connect to it. I'm not trying to get at that. I'm just trying to get at like, well, the stuff you're citing, a lot of the stuff that costs a lot of money, a lot of it fails in the box office too. You know what I mean? For that reason.
A lot
Not all
of it
of it
has
does.
made so much money though, man.
Like what? Like what's some
Deadpool and Wolverine was one of the highest grossing movies last year.
Yeah.
A lot of like Netflix will constantly just be like Red Notice #1 movie of the year. And like there all these streaming movies will come out, cost so much money, everyone will watch it for a weekend and then move on, and it kind of just feels like it's like kind of the Jack Horner speech of I want something real. I want to like show people a story instead of just like, them getting their rocks off and leaving. And sometimes a lot of mainstream art feels like the intention is just get your rocks off and leave. Netflix, it feels like that. We'll put this movie on Netflix. It'll be the biggest movie for 2 days. People will get their rocks off and leave. It'll leave absolutely no impact. There is this like the good thing is the democratization of like filmmaking has made it so anyone can make movies and television, right?
Yes.
It's made it easier. So we are able to get art that we maybe wouldn't have been able to before. At the same time, it makes it so like the kind of attention to the ambition to make something high quality is kind of gone sometimes, I feel like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think for me, I'm not trying to say that like, because if we're only honing in on movies, I don't think you're wrong. I'm talking about like a broader perspective of like art evolves and turns into other things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, movies are diluted very heavily, but I also think there's a lot of really cool projects that people make exclusively on YouTube or even exclusively on shit like TikTok or whatever. There are actually good diamonds in there that just don't get put in theaters, but someone made that in a way that probably wouldn't have been able to have made it like 15 years ago, but they thought outside the box and still were creative and made something. And so I've just been one to I'm okay with that if it's not this commercialized thing, because I know there are smart and talented people that like to put their stuff out. You know what I mean? I've always had that kind of steadfast belief that like, no matter where society goes, good art will always prevail, in some capacity or another. That's kind of like, my broader take on it.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what our audience thinks, because I'm sure there are people that kind of swing back and forth from both of our perspectives. But isn't it kind of amazing that a movie about what like the porn industry was like in the 70s, like we are talking about filmmaking and what art means to us in relation to that,
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think that's kind of what I love about this movie is that Paul Thomas Anderson isn't treating these characters as if they are doing something extremely dumb with their lives or extremely degrading. Like one of the scenes that I really like is that first scene that Dirk Diggler has, right? His first scene. And if you watch that scene, Little Bill is kind of showing him like, okay, we're going to start with you here. This is how we're going to do the blocking. Do you want to do rehearsal? And then it'll do these insert shots of the camera, and you're getting to see the filmmaking. It's like this stuff matters to these people.
Well, and it's just a day at work too. You know what I mean? That's what's kind of cool about it.
It's a day at work, but they genuinely care. You know what I mean? And I think like you can see the difference between the 70s and 80s where Jack Horner's like, all right, keep rolling. And Kurt has that line of just like, well, it's video. You can just keep going and going. And there's no level of like, you can tell they're losing a sense of like excitement over like actually wanting to capture something versus, oh, well, it's just on video, so we can keep rolling,
Well, especially it does both like a glamorization and deglamorization, because I liked how there's like no music. Like the movie is like hits you with so many needle drops throughout the whole time, but once they're actually shooting, there's no music. It's very like it's very like matter of fact the way it's showing everything.
It's a job, yeah, 100%.
Exactly, it's a job, and but like you said though, like that care and attention dwindles as the movie goes on. You see him watching the cut early in the movie, and he's like, "I think that we're really making something here. This is I want them to remember me by this movie." And then later in the movie, then he's like, "It is what it is," and then they kind of leave. It's just like it just becomes work,
It's both funny and just achingly sincere. Jack Horner and Kurt, his cameraman / editor, are watching a cut of Brock Landers and Chest Rockwell, and it is one of the trashiest porn movies you could ever watch. It cuts back to Kurt being like, oh, it cuts back to Kurt and Jack watching it, and Jack is like, this is the best work we've ever done. And Kurt is like, it's a real film, Jack. You really made it fly. And Jack is like, this is a film I want them to remember me by. And
Oh, exactly.
which is like both hilarious because they're watching something that is actually insane. but to them it matters so much. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, well, even the way Dirk pitches it too, when they're in the back of that van, when he's explaining to him, like, oh yeah, I don't want to see women treated like that. Like, that's not sexy. That's this, and then you see it become that thing that he was trying to avoid in the beginning. You know what I mean? He becomes that, like, all the artistry put into it. Is kind of lost, like you said. It's kind of interesting and it's like very bittersweet and sad.
and even when Eddie is picking his name, like the way he says it with such passion, like he's not just like, oh, this would be cool. He like really cares. I have the line, when I close my eyes, I see this thing. It's like this big sign, and the name is in the like bright blue neon lights with like purple outline. And the name is just so bright and so sharp that the sign, it just blows up because the name is just so powerful.
Yeah, it's fucking rad.
Chris, and the line, it's a real film, Jack, is actually like a very influential line to me. Because how many times do I call you after seeing a movie that I actually respond to, and I tell you, dude, it's like a real movie.
Yeah.
I got that from this movie. Like I just like the feeling of like watching something, and it's not just like the movie's good. It's the fact that it feels like it's made by humans. I tell you that too. It's like it's made by actual people,
What's kind of crazy is like, this is going to be a little, self-masturbatory a little bit, but I had that feeling a little bit when we first did that Monty Python and the Holy Grail reaction. And it's funny because we just filmed ourselves watching Monty Python. It's nothing, we didn't have to do anything super special, but once I saw the edit and the way the pacing was, we saw the subtitles to it, and like our own laughter and the crop ins and like all of it come together, I had that feeling like this is a real YouTube video.
Yeah.
I had that feeling of like, oh, this video could actually like compete with other YouTubers. Like, I think we're kind of there, even though at that point we were pretty like, we had a following, but once we hit that point, I remember that feeling of like, oh, we make videos.
You looked back at me and you said, it's a real film, Altaf.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting there.
How do you feel about Mark Wahlberg in this movie?
Dude, he is freakishly good, and it's like a truly transformative role that I almost don't even see it as Mark Wahlberg. Like, I look at it and I'm like, that's not the same guy who was in the other guys.
So I think his best performances by far are this and The Departed. And
Sure.
But this one tops it for me for sure. I think what's amazing about it is Dirk is really dumb. And to play dumb, you have to have just this lack of ego.
All the characters are all misfits and outcasts and like, high school dropouts. And none of them, there's no real, like the only smart character is probably Don Cheadle, out of the
but they're all
performers.
But even Don Cheadle is Buck. He's trying to constantly find a new look. They're all like kind of lost.
But yeah, and so like what I was going to get at is like, not only is Dirk Diggler dumb, but he's also very gentle and polite. Like, there's a vulnerability that comes with this performance that's not just him playing it for laughs of being like a bro-y, like, like I just want to be called Dirk Diggler. I just want to fuck, whatever. He's not that kind of guy. He's very like polite. Like, even on their first shoot together in that scene you mentioned, he asked Julianne Moore if she was okay if they get straight to the sex, and he checks in with her. And he's very like, he whispers like, hey, can you just call me Dirk from now? And he's very respectful. The whole way through, he's never, you see that turn halfway through the movie once he starts getting on coke and getting, his ego grows and he gets super rich. But early on, he is a very, like I said, a very gentle guy. And I think like all the characters have this sort of empathy attached to them because they all have their own other interests besides just being in porn. They all have other interests. They all have baggage. They all have anxieties about life like anyone else does. And so you see kind of like, in a weird way, the appeal of like sticking through this industry. It feels like they're their own little bubble, their own little group of people that kind of stick together through thick and thin.
Well, this movie
and
is, sorry, go ahead. Complete.
that was it. Yeah. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, obviously this movie's super inspired by Goodfellas, right? It is, Paul Thomas Anderson has talked about it. He's very blunt about it because you can't not be. It's like besides the narration, it's almost like very obvious. But aside from the visual and style and the editing style being an homage to Goodfellas, it also has a similar like kind of theme of family, right? Like Henry Hill, the reason he joins is because he feels like he belongs here and these are his people, you know? And same with Eddie/Dirk Diggler. It feels like, oh, he's found a home. And like you said, everyone's kind of found a home. Like, and they all are missing a little something from their lives, or they feel like they could have something more. Like, I mean, Amber is one of the roughest characters to watch, in my opinion, in this movie.
Yeah.
Amber, who's lost her son because of the lifestyle she leads, right? She is, like Jack Horner says, in an oddly dark way, she's a mother to all who need love.
Yeah.
Like, she is using Dirk as like a replacement for the son that she's not allowed to see anymore. A Roller Girl, like, is looking desperately for a mom. I mean, when I talk about like how Paul Thomas Anderson's not afraid to show extremely raw, naked emotion, that scene between Roller Girl and Amber, when they're like just getting higher and higher, and she's like, just call me mom, okay? I'm just gonna ask you, and if you're my mom, you just say yes. It's fucking rough, but that's why they're all there. And so I think, Chris, you and I can heavily relate, right? Like, I know I've talked many times about coming to LA and just feeling like I finally found myself. Not that I wasn't happy in my hometown, but it's like when I arrived in the city and I like living in the valley specifically, you know, funny enough.
Yeah.
I truly felt like I found my people in a sense, you know, that had similar interests when I met you, when I met roommates and other friends. And, there's nothing that compares to that, the found family aspect of when you're just like, oh, there you guys are. And speaking on like Dirk being so kind to everyone, it's those moments between him and Scotty that really get me. Scotty J, played by one of our favorite actors, Chris, Philip Seymour Hoffman. We've sung his praises many times in episodes.
Oh yeah.
He is astounding in this movie. Like,
I know.
So hard to watch because he doesn't play the character with any level of like judgment. He is so like, you don't think for even a second that Philip Seymour Hoffman is making fun of Scotty. He is like, it's when Scotty comes up to him, is like, can I kiss you, man? Like after he tries. I love that Dirk isn't immediately like, get the fuck off me, man. Just leave. Why the hell? Dirk, I mean, it's like, all right, man, you want to go back inside? You know?
Yeah, he has like this level of like, you know, he knows he's shit-faced and drunk and he's just kind of like, you know, he's embarrassed for him. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to like humiliate him. He's like, he says like, why'd you do that, man? You know, he doesn't beat him up or anything like that or whatever. Like you said, you know, he's more just kind of like, yeah, just, you know, just upset that you took our friendship to that level and it's weird now between us.
Yeah, it's like, why'd you have to do that? What do you think of Scotty in this movie, man? I feel like I want to talk about like every single character for an hour.
I know. Yeah, no, Scotty, like you said, I just feel sad when I see him. Obviously, he is really funny, and Philip Seymour Hoffman plays it for laughs, but very subtly. Like he does it in such like a beautiful, like elegant way where it's not like he does this really obvious comedic, like, I'm just Scotty, gonna make my belly hang out and whatever. Like, you know, he has this sort of like unawareness about him. Like he has no idea how stupid he looks throughout the whole thing.
He has such a honest crush on Dirk. Like it's embarrassing to watch, but it feels so real, you know? Obviously, this movie also has a great movie friendship between Reed Rothschild and Dirk Diggler. It's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Their margarita scene is just like amazing writing. That is just like these two guys are like, Reed is immediately trying to one-up him. And these two guys live in this constant state of like, you can tell Reed is a little jealous of him, but their friendship feels like two teenagers meeting for a play date, if that makes sense.
Oh, well, yeah. And I think it's because like he probably felt like, he was the cool one in the industry in that group. And now this new guy's coming in. So he's kind of like, he's just sizing him up. He's asking, he's like, hey, what can you squat? And as now, what's funny is like I've been weightlifting for the past few months. As soon as he said he can squat 350, I was like, holy fuck, that's actually a lot. And he's like trying to play it off like casually. He's like, yeah, 350. I cannot squat 350, unfortunately. Not yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I just don't understand how this movie's able to have this many characters. Like,
yeah, the way it juggles them all.
It makes absolutely no sense, but it does it in that kind of Scorsese way where everyone feels so like, everything feels so lived in. Like, in between the scene between Reed and Dirk, when they're meeting, Roller Girl just kind of slides on by, takes a picture of them, and slides out. And then it'll just cut to Buck Swope talking with his girlfriend about like, what do you think of this cowboy look? And it never feels like
chocolate love.
Exactly. It never feels overwhelming, like it never feels like, oh, I'm like, I don't know who to keep up with. Like it's all just flowing. I don't understand how you do that,
Yeah. And it's so detailed too with like, the atmosphere of the 70s. Obviously I've never been in the 70s. I was not alive during that time, but
what
if there's I know, guys, shocking, Altaf and I were not
surprising
from the 70s,
because you always love to talk about how old you are.
Yeah, exactly. And, when you realize how old I am, if you do the math, you'll realize I'm, in fact, not from the 70s. But it's very detailed in terms of like the aesthetic of the furniture and the color scheme, the haircuts, everything just looks so kind of naturally the way it is. And like almost like the values of the 70s feel like they're in the blocking, if that makes any sense. Like the way the characters, like you said, they take pictures kind of going around. There's always like this kind of, it's a world in motion.
There's cocaine everywhere. There's like alcohol in everyone's hand. And it just honestly that you can smell the sex. Like you can just like it's like so textured. But it doesn't do that period piece thing that I feel like I see a lot in movies nowadays, man, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's a 70s movie, so we'll have them wear disco shirts and we'll put 70s style furniture where it just feels like they shopped at IKEA or like Home Goods for a split second, It genuinely feels like, oh, those characters exist in this time period. I think your comment about the blocking feels like it's the 70s as well is a great one. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? I think something about I think because the movie is also a commentary, like we already had a whole debate about, it's very much a commentary on the way culture changes and time shifts. I think the way the movie's shot and it's blocked enhances that because it very much feels like a world in motion. Like I said, everyone's doing things. It feels like you're just kind of trying to keep up with everyone with the camera. And so it feels like you lose control of things along with the characters, if that makes any sense.
Chris, I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
Early on in the movie, Jack Horner and Eddie meet, and Jack Horner says the line, "I got a feeling that behind those jeans is something wonderful just waiting to get out." Mm-hmm. This movie's a lot about like being found, being recognized for like, whether it be your talent or, yeah, I think primarily I want to talk about talent. I'm going to frame this question in a way that is silly, but I want you to take it sincerely. Was there someone in your life that recognized that you had something that was waiting to get out?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe because I think I was really looking for that. I think I had that more so in teachers once I moved to LA, but I think my ego was big enough when I was 17 and 16 to just think I didn't need that, if that makes any sense. Like, because no one else in my life was really into screenwriting and filmmaking, yada yada. At least not a lot of people. I knew like a couple people, but it felt more like I was trying to rope people along and make them get into filmmaking with me so I can have like a team. But it wasn't until I moved to LA when, in the best way possible, when my writing and my work and stuff started getting shit on. You know what I mean? In a good way. I think every artist who wants to explore their thing, their whatever it is, whether it's physical art, drawing, or music or whatever, any field that you want to explore, you need your work to be shat on by someone better than you. If that makes any sense, to really kind of like level you out and realize what you actually want to work on and really push yourself to be better. And I think that's what I really had. I kind of had the inverse effect, if that makes any sense. I wasn't a Dirk Diggler. I was like more like, Miles Teller in Whiplash or something like that. Like I felt more like I needed that, like that figure to like give me that push of like, no, you need to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a great comparison. Like, you are either like Miles Teller from Whiplash, or you are Dirk Diggler, where someone just like, hey, you got something there. And I feel like a lot of people have had either one or the other in their experiences, especially when you move to LA and you talk to a lot of people. There are people that I've met that were like, yeah, I think it was just my middle school teacher who told me I should write. And then I started doing that, But yeah, for me, I think I've talked about this before, but like it was in college when, like I was part of the journalism and broadcast video program, and one of the teachers just told me, who's like, you're really good with editing. You're really good at like storytelling through like the visual medium, I guess. And he didn't say I should pursue filmmaking, but he just noticed that I was particularly good at that, because I wasn't that good at writing at that time, or even now, but like I wasn't that good of a writer. I wasn't that interested in anything else, but he could tell like my eyes sparked up when I had a camera.
I actually have a couple people to credit in my youth that I wouldn't say gave me that like, like, oh, you got something, you should do that. But I did get that like, oh, you're into this, you should watch this movie. You should explore this.
Yeah.
So, like I had people that were kind of guiding me a little bit to kind of further venture and see how committed I was. But what was it? I remember the first real compliment I got from like a professional was when I did a summer camp, and it was on set. And I think we had like a very limited window to shoot our little shorts, and we only had like an hour and a half or something like that, And I remember someone got stressed and snappy with me. I don't remember the details because, again, I was probably like 16 during this time. But I remember I cracked a joke back and kind of kept it light and kept moving along. And my teacher specifically, said like, Chris, I want to let you know you have a really good attitude when you're directing. Like you actually have you do a really good job keeping your cool. And that's hard to do when you're in charge of this many moving parts. And you do a good job like holding it together and keeping the mood light. And I remember that was really cool. I was like, oh, hey, maybe, maybe I am kind of good to work with. That's kind of nice to hear.
I remember when we used to like make short films together, you and I had a very different way of going about things. Surprisingly, I was more tightly wound. And Chris would like just in the middle of takes just pop out the ukulele. Like I remember that specific, like there's a behind the scenes shot somewhere where like while we're setting up, Chris is playing ukulele. And it was like,
okay.
And
you
like,
said in the middle of takes. I was like, I didn't do it in the middle of takes.
I meant,
but in the middle of setting up.
In between takes, I meant, yeah. And I remember at one point we were like, I was like, okay, I'll go get lunch for everyone. And people were at our apartment filming and waiting for me to grab lunch. I came back. Everyone's watching Chris play Battlefield.
It was Star Wars Battlefront. Yeah, I remember
everyone's watching Chris play Star Wars Battlefront, like in the middle of a shoot day. And it wasn't, it was just like, you always brought this vibe of like, it's kind of fun that we're making shit, right? Like this is exciting. And not to say that you weren't stressed or like, you also weren't just like making sure that we met our time and we like finished our day. But you kind of were good at reminding people subconsciously that filmmaking is fun.
Or it can be fun. I know it's funny because it is kind of a miserable experience in a lot of ways, but I think like at the end of the day, like you said, we are hopefully going to make something we can all kind of be proud of and watch together and have a good time. Be, like, oh, we came together and made a thing.
And no one,
I appreciate that though, man.
But here's the thing, man. No one's talking about how, Altaf really made sure that everyone was on schedule. But I bet they're like, the actors that we worked with maybe in stories talk about like, oh yeah, I remember making this short film and the director like would played ukulele, or like they would bring up those stories, because I think like you were also really good about just like being in the present. Like, we are making something here and the journey is also just as important,
Sure. I get that. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. I try to have fun when I can. I think that even applies in small ways between me and you making content together on for the YouTube reactions and for the podcast and stuff. I'm a very goofy dude. I just can't not be sometimes. And for better or worse.
You definitely bring that out of me sometimes. I feel like if it weren't for you, I'd be just like clenched fists the entire shoots, and I think you force me to be like, let's have some fun, so I'll stop sucking your dick now.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say, come on.
Unless you want to talk about something in between, you want to start talking about the third act and where characters end up.
Is it gonna lead to the end of the show kind of thing?
We're going to do shouties and everything too, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, there is something I do want to touch on a little bit before we talk about the ending.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to lead us into that, I know, yeah. Just fucking just let's move on, please.
No, let's just bring it up out of nowhere, dude.
I knew once I said it, I'm like, fuck.
All right, we'll get ready. Don't worry, let me.
Fuck. We can keep all of this in. It's fine.
We don't have to keep this, man.
No.
Okay.
I think this is exactly a perfect example of what I was just talking about.
That's true.
So let's keep this in.
Okay. Okay. So, no, I guess one thing I did want to bring up that I think is pretty important to the story that we kind of forget about early on is the fact that like Dirk Diggler is treated like absolute shit by his mother in the opening.
Yeah.
It very much creates like a character that you can immediately kind of root for, because you realize that like, yeah, why he needs this sort of belonging and what, this sort of found family element to it. But like, I think watching it again, now that I'm going to say this a lot, by the way, so forgive me, but now that I'm 30, I think like, maybe I don't know. I felt kind of like the air get sucked out of my lungs a little bit watching that scene again when his mom's yelling at him and tearing down his posters.
That's the part that just fully sucks to watch, when she starts tearing down the posters.
It's horrible, yeah. And I'm sure it's horrible for a lot of people, but I think like, to an extent, this is not a parental thing, by the way, to be clear. I love my parents, but both my past, two main big relationships involved some level of emotional abuse, just to be kind of transparent about that sort of thing. I won't get into detail about it yet. Maybe I will someday, but I understand the feeling, though, of being verbally berated and it won't stop, Like I know that kind of instinct when he just starts yelling, like, please stop being mean to me. Like, why are you doing this kind of thing? I know where like that I felt that feeling that he was in, where it was being like, where you're like reverted to that desperate, like, you're supposed to love me, please stop treating me this way kind of thing, that confused, like feeling like it's your fault when it's not. And there's like this weird, I don't know what you call it. It's like a very fucked up feeling that it scrambles your brain. And I think like watching it again, it was kind of like, I think it was, I mean, to be completely transparent, I think it was like a little triggering, to be honest. But I do appreciate that scene though, just because I think it just makes you kind of understand, why he leans to them so tightly later in the movie, So I just want to touch on that.
I mean, when you were getting out of those relationships, did you find yourself in that same position that Dirk was in, where you were kind of looking for you were looking for your people again?
Yeah. Or I think like I had my people, but I didn't really realize kind of, how much I missed my people, if that makes any sense. Because I put so much of my energy into my past relationship. And there was a lot that I didn't tell people, a lot of things that I just kind of hid from people. And again, I don't want to get too into details and stuff, but it took a lot of opening up and reflecting to kind of realize how fucked up that situation really was. And it took a lot of support and people to kind of level things out and be like, hey, wait, that's not normal. You should not have been treated this way. This is bad, what you went through. Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that though, man, because like I agree with you. That scene with Dirk and his mom, or Eddie at the time, and his mom, I think is so resonant because it's the way he says, "Why are you being mean to me?" Like him just not processing that you're supposed to be someone that loves me. Like I have done nothing to upset you. It's all subtext, right? But from Eddie's point of view, it's like, I make money. I'm happy with my life. Why are you hurting me like this? And you've spoken to me a lot about relating to that feeling. So I just really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And I think the other part that adds to it is definitely cutting away to the dad who's just sitting there doing nothing to protect his son.
Yeah.
I think there's just something so it's so viscerally frustrating to watch. And you don't know enough context of like if it's always been like that or what, or what it is that really set it off or if it got worse later. But it told you enough of what you need to know of where Dirk Diggler is at. And like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, that he is essentially a little boy. At the core of it, he's into karate. He likes fast cars. You know what I mean? He's essentially like a little kid who just wants the love of a family like anybody else does.
Okay, so let's get to the third act of this movie. They all decide to do this scheme based off what Todd said of just like, we can make some extra cash. We pack this shit with baking soda and sell it for $5,000. I know this guy. It's Alfred Molina. Watching the movie this time, that scene might be just one of my favorite scenes in any movie. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, it is just a bang out amazing movie scene. It is like why I love movies. I want to see this movie in a theater because of that scene. Like, it's everything I want in a fucking movie. A great character actor, the use of all aspects of filmmaking, which is sound and camera blocking and then performance, right?
Yeah.
Alfred Molina, I fucking love in almost everything he's in. But man, what do you think about him in this one?
I mean, yeah, he's so fucking good. I think like
as Rahad Jackson.
Yeah. No, you're right though. I think the music just goes extra hard, as the music goes hard in this whole movie, as is a recurring through line in this podcast episode. But in that scene specifically, when it hones in on the 80s rock, when it plays Jesse's Girl and he's just there dancing, it's really
the firecrackers.
That's what I was gonna say. That's the part that elevates it so much for me, is the use of firecrackers, the way all of them keep flinching to add to the tension. And I think it's so earned, this scene. You know what I mean? It feels like a scene straight from Pulp Fiction or something. Like this whole second half of the movie, I would argue, is basically just Pulp Fiction in a good way. I think because it also came after Dirk just got his ass handed to him. He was beat up horribly. He failed trying to get a music career off the ground. Like seeing him like getting that whole fight, trying like, no, you got to let us have the demo so we can get a record deal. And this whole thing, it's so stressful to watch them like fail at everything else because they realize they don't have any life skills beyond porn, basically.
Hey, Reed's got magic. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, for sure. He finds magic. And I mean, I guess I'm really talking about Dirk.
Yeah.
Reed has magic, and, Don Cheadle ends up having his old music thing. They're like in a family. They all have their things going on. But I think once it builds up to this level of desperation where they're just routinely around the clock, snorting coke, and now they're just trying to make cheap money, ripping off like a big criminal. It's just like, oh, you just feel so icky watching it at the same time.
Every time he does a line, he like looks to the camera. He breaks the fourth wall. He does it many times in that second half. But like Mark Wahlberg in that scene is, the first time you watch this movie, you're just looking at Alfred Molina in that scene, but you look at Mark Wahlberg, especially that moment where Paul Thomas Anderson just decides to stay on him. He's amazing in that scene. It might be the best movie scene he's ever done, which is like these 5 to 7 seconds of the shots just on him and the sounds kind of drowning out and the music slowly coming up and his face is like gone. And there's this kind of level of like he's smiling, then he's scared. I want to bring up a story. I personally believe that if you live in LA long enough, everyone ends up having at least one story where they're out, they end up at a third location, and they immediately realize that they shouldn't be there. And this was during the pandemic, 2021, and things started opening up again. And a friend from work who I am not friends with, thank God, but like anymore, but someone from my old job when I used to work at this restaurant was like, hey man, it's been a while. Haven't seen you since, January 2020. You want to hang out? And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's 1 p.m. I hang out with him. We're out, we're out. And we play some pool and he's like, all right, man. So yeah, my friend, you know him, we used to work with him. He needs a ride to this apartment because he wants to pick up some stuff from this guy. You can just stay in the car. And my dumbass was like, sure. That all sounds pretty kosher. And I
was not there for this whole thing, by the way, guys.
Chris wasn't there. Chris wasn't there. I was just like, I haven't hung out with people in a while. This is great. I was very, very fucking naive. This was like about 5 years ago. And so I wait in the car for 30 minutes outside this apartment building in Burbank. It's really hot, but the AC's on, but it's still really hot, and I'm just like, fucking, when are they going to come? And 30 minutes later, he comes. Let's call him Carlos for the sake of the story. Carlos comes back. Carlos's friend is still in the apartment, but Carlos is like, hey man, just come in for a little bit. We're taking a while. I'm like, oh, okay. And didn't call an Uber back home. I'm like, I'll come with you guys. I go in. Posters of like athletes and brands are everywhere around this small, dingy apartment. There's a couple people smoking weed. And this really big, heavy-set Armenian guy comes out, completely shirtless, hair everywhere. Like, I'm talking like, I'm a hairy guy, but this guy was a hairy guy. And he comes...
He's wearing a coat.
And yes, basically. Shirtless, and he's like, hey man, what's up? He holds up like a Puma t-shirt and some sneakers, and he's like, hey man, do you want any of this? So quickly I realized, okay, all this shit in this guy's house are just like things that he's trying to sell or like off-brand stuff that this is his business, right? And Carlos's friend is in the couch holding up this gun, and he's like, so fool, how much is this for? And he tells him the price of the gun. I am now sitting on the armrest of the couch, and Carlos is like, it's just going to be a little bit. And Carlos's friend is looking at the gun, and I'm like, I need to leave. But I'm stuck. I'm like too scared to move.
So your friend was buying a gun?
Carlos's friend was buying a gun.
Got it. Okay.
But I don't think he bought it at the end, but he was like eyeing it. And Carlos is like, yo, let me see that. Carlos gets the gun and kind of takes out his Instagram and like, takes a video of it. And I'm just like a boomerang, like, look at this, I'm out here,
Fucking Christ. You never told me this story. I thought I knew what story you were telling, so that's why I'm kind of like, I was not like I was uninterested, but I thought you were just sharing it for the audience kind of thing. But as soon as you mentioned a weapon was involved, I'm like, whoa, hang on. Like, wait, you did not tell me the story. Why? Okay, I know why you didn't tell me the story. I was going to say, why didn't you tell me?
I was so deeply embarrassed that I did all this, that I never told anyone. And I tell you everything. And they're like, hey man, do you want any of this? They're offering me like a bong. They're offering me like to buy these sneakers. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. And Carlos sees that I'm like really freaked out. He's like, all right, man, we'll leave. Carlos drops. I continue to hang out with Carlos for the rest of the day. We go back where we were playing pool, and I play pool for the rest of the day. Like, my mind is not like, I should not hang out with Carlos anymore. My mind's like, all right, thank God we're out of that apartment. Carlos, do you still want to chill out? I got nothing else going on. It's lockdown.
Were you like afraid? Like, was it kind of like a freeze response, or was it purely like you didn't think it was that big of a deal?
I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I was so incredibly stupid that I wasn't scared. Like, I was like, okay, it's whatever. In my mind, I'm like, Carlos is so nice. He thought I was freaked out, and he decided to leave. You know.
Got it.
I just want to say I don't hang out with Carlos anymore.
So wait, so on one hand, you're telling me that you didn't tell me the story because you were embarrassed, but on the other hand, you're telling me in the moment you didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Well, now I like it. You have to understand. In that day, I didn't think it was a big a deal. When I was more clear-minded the next day, I was like, "What the fuck was wrong with me?" And these past 3-4 years, I think about it at least once a month, and I'm like, "What the hell was wrong with me? I don't know what could have happened." Things take seconds to go wrong.
Yeah.
So I was embarrassed the next day, but that day I was like, "Oh, whatever."
Interesting.
So
Okay,
I'm bringing this story up because I will say my day wasn't as crazy as the day that they have with Alfred Molina, but I recognize that feeling of being on a couch and being like, fuck, we need to leave, man.
Oh yeah. I think that's definitely true for a lot of LA natives. We've all had those days or nights where something gets weird and you end up at a location you didn't really plan to be at, and you kind of wish you didn't go there.
So Dirk is, they get shot out. Dirk makes his way back to Jack's place, and I love the choice of not cutting back to Burt Reynolds until the hug,
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
because you feel through the camera blocking that desperation, like you want to see Jack's reaction so badly, the way Dirk wants to desperately have him welcome him back. You know what I mean?
that's true. I was going to ask what you thought that meant, because I did notice that. I clocked it more this go around. I think it very much was emulating kind of just the classic coming of age of like, running away from home and then realizing that the world's scarier than you thought it was, and then coming back home. Yeah, it's an interesting ending, because like I can see it being interpreted one of two ways, where I think for me, I interpret it as very bittersweet in some ways. Then some people interpret it as almost sad though, because it's like, it feels like he has no other path besides just being stuck in this industry that's dying. I think it's about finding that happiness, even if the industry is dying or whatever, because he's with his people. You know what I mean? Like, you see things in that final shot, especially when it's following Jack walking through the set again. You see everyone kind of back together and things are kind of back to normal, but they're all in kind of new chapters. Like, the energy changed. You see like Don Cheadle with the baby in the pool. You know what I mean?
Well, Don Cheadle's not there. His
wife is playing with the baby in the pool, and Reed Rothschild's playing with the baby. That's right.
But they show shots of like,
places.
they show shots of Reed doing magic still, but there's still like, topless ladies involved.
Yeah, exactly. And then Heather Graham is, now getting her GED. She's going back to school, and maybe she'll be able to make a future for herself in something else.
Maybe not though. There is that shot of her in class, kind of distracted and looking outside. Like, there's still like this feeling of like she doesn't quite know if this was the right decision.
Yeah, very much. It doesn't wrap things in a clean bow. It kind of leaves it up to you, but it definitely makes you feel something.
Even like Buck getting his sound stereo store, like that. We didn't talk about Buck that much, but he is such a tragic character in a way. Like, he can't get that bank loan. That heartbreaking scene where he's like, "I'm an actor."
Yeah.
That's what I love about this movie, man. Like, these people, like Paul Thomas Anderson didn't really make these people feel stupid for getting into these industry. Like, that's just what they got into. And so Buck is never like, no, I didn't do porn. He doesn't try to deny that. He's like, no, I'm an actor though. Like, that's what I do. Don't just degrade it to this thing. And he can't get that loan. And the only way he gets the money is because of this like horrifying incident. Like, it is so, there's something very telling about like, maybe like you get that happy ending, but it might not be the way you want it. It might not be the cleanest story,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I hear adult actors still have to deal with that kind of thing. Like in terms of, I've heard adult, performers have to get like separate bank accounts to get paid through because
Sure.
their mainstream banks don't accept payments from like, big adult studios and stuff.
Before we wrap up the show, we didn't get any write-ins for this episode, which is okay. But I just want to let people know, follow us on social media or follow us on Patreon to be notified the next movie we're going to do and when you can write us in by. Chris, any shouties?
Yeah. Quick shouty to the moment when.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just realized that people might be listening or watching this episode and they might not know. What the fuck are shouties, man?
That's true, So for those who don't know, shouties is where we give shout outs to small moments in the movies that matter to us. Thank you for that,
Okay, what's your first shout?
Anyway, quick shouty to the scene when Jack is taking in new talent in the 80s. When there's that random dude that's sitting next to him and Dirk is like super threatened by him, doesn't shake his hand, he's acting like a dick. I always just love the lighting in it. Do you remember how like deep red it is? It feels like they're like descending to hell or something like that.
And it goes into this like Dutch angle too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the energy change. There's a lot of shouty. Shouty to the tracking shot of the pool scene shifting from outside of water going underwater. Fucking
Unbelievable.
insane.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shouty to.
Wait, can I give some too? We can go back and forth.
Oh yeah, sure.
The first sex scene, which I talked about, the first, not the first sex scene, but the first porn scene that Dirk does. I love all the reactions to when Dirk puts his pants down. Like,
yeah.
I love the cameraman just kind of tilting their heads. I love Reed and the other person next to him.
Like this.
Yeah, they're all tilting their heads, and then my guy Philip Seymour Hoffman, it slowly zooms in on him as he's like deep breathing, like tweaking out on the boom mic, just like really.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Shouty to, we didn't talk about him once this whole episode, but William H. Macy.
Little Bill. Oh my God.
Yeah. His whole, subplot was just heartbreaking. Especially like that touch of him at the end when you see the painting of him as they were passing. I love that touch in the music. It's
the line, "My fucking wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway, Kurt." No, he says that. So what I was going to say is that he literally says, "My fucking wife has an ass in her cock." And
does he literally say that? That's so funny. I forgot about that.
So what that was is that William H. Macy messed that up, but everyone laughed so hard and Paul Thomas Anderson thought it was so funny that he kept it that way.
Makes sense. Okay.
I also love the, "You got the touch."
Dude, we didn't bring up the studio scene. I mean, I touched on the music scene, but yeah, dude, that's like, I sing that still to this day all the time. You got the touch.
I mean,
you got the power.
Yeah. My favorite is, "You think the bass is taken away from the vocals?"
Yeah, sounds balanced to me. It's definitely taken away from vocals. Bring the bass down, turn the vocals up. You heard him. All right, do it. Okay. It's also John C. Reilly's dancing during that scene too. How he's just there, like just rocking out.
Oh yeah, and then when they're like writing the song, it is so atrocious how poorly he's singing. Like,
well, especially when they're rehearsing too, when he's playing the guitar, and he's like, "Feel my heat."
Any other shouties from you?
Shouty to the score that plays during that last shot too. I really love that last shot of that whole shot of Jack walking through the set and the music, the atmosphere. But that theme that plays, that little synthy, kind of, it's like very melancholic and bittersweet. It's like hopeful, but also sad at the same time. Like you feel like you're at a funeral, but like a happy funeral.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. I like that.
Because it plays right before the credits kick in too, like right as like the opening starting, and before it hits like the fun dance disco music, it plays that theme. I don't know what it's called, but I love that music. So shouty to just that theme because it captures the feeling that the movie wants to give you. Like it summarizes the movie in that one score.
Shouty to one of the best like final scenes in any movie, which is Dirk rehearsing in front of the mirror, standing up and taking his cock out. Like just really,
Yep.
I love that the movie is just like, that's Chekhov's hog. We're gonna show it. Like,
Dude, I was waiting for you to say hog in this podcast, and I'm impressed that it took you until the very end to say it. But I had in my head, I was like, he's going to use that word a lot, isn't he?
no, I resisted it because I was like, that's the obvious thing to do. But I was like, I'm gonna use. But again, I just love that the movie's like, there it is. We're doing it. Like, that's how we're ending this movie. And he's like, I'm a star. I'm a star. I'm a star.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. After all the buildup, you finally see it.
And it is like, it pays off so well because you're just like, yeah, man, that, like, I get it.
Like, good fucking Lord.
Like, that, everyone's reaction is valid. I mean, one of the funniest scenes is like the Colonel's like, may I see it? And then he takes it down. He's like, why, thank you, Eddie.
Oh, shout out to the Colonel, his intro. Remember when he first gets out of the car, how it's like 3 matching shots of him grunting and going like, ugh, ugh, ugh. Like, they make him look old and gross immediately, and then followed by that presumably teenage girl that gets out of the car with him. It establishes him instantly without him really having to say much.
Shouty to Scotty trying to get a piece of cake.
Oh, yeah, when he puts like a shitload on his plate.
And it's like this thin slice, but it's kind of falling off, so he eats. I mean, like, again, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's like one of our great physical actors, man. Like, he's so good.
I know, it's so true.
It reminds you of that Along Came Polly pizza scene, you know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. Shouty to Napoleon being the king of the Roman Empire.
Dude,
people were constantly trying to conquer him.
It's like Napoleon, you know, in the Roman Empire. I guess that's what happens when you're on the top. Like,
yeah. Shouty to that margarita. We already said the margarita scene, but, you know, I always want a margarita when I watch that sequence.
100%. What else? I got that car. The Corvette is so cool. Such a...
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a car guy, but that fucking car, man.
That's a beautiful car.
That's it. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. Join our Patreon to watch Chris guess the movie with the bad movie descriptions. And last but not least, stay nice, dudes.